Welcome to the world's most amazing business podcast. If you don't believe us, well, who, if we say so ourselves, and why wouldn't we say so ourselves? Otherwise, why would we do this? I'm your host, Frederick Douglas Bussey, and along with my co-host, Richard Pierce, we're here for the Boss Podcast. Today, we're going to have an amazing topic that I think is going to be really, really beneficial for you because so many people are thinking about these things, but maybe they're not thinking about it right, or they're not thinking about it at all. And if you have a business and you want to be able to scale it, you're trying to solve problems to be able to create the level of freedom and escape velocity that you want in your business. This is going to be one of those main topics I think is going to be super, super beneficial. But before we jump into all of that, let me welcome in my co-host, Richard. How are you today?
I'm doing great. You forgot one valuable fact there is we're the best looking guys in business podcasting. So everybody, I know it's an unfair advantage that we have, but I just want to, what do they call it? Like a material fact or something, when you buy a car or a refrigerator, you got to know all these, consumer facts, I guess, and everything. So
objectively speaking, we would have to be the most handsome. Yes,
exactly right.
But you're not here just for good looks. You're here for the information. You're here for the insight on how to scale and grow your business. And so for that, we're going to talk about today how to rebrand your business. Before we even get into all that, right? Let's talk about some of the misconceptions about what a brand actually is. What are things that a brand is not?
A brand is not. This could be like a whole bullet point list. So a brand is not provider centric. It is consumer centric. So let me just pick an example like of a bad brand that I commonly see. Someone that uses their name in the brand. So like, for example, I'll just pick on like HVAC. I'm making these things up randomly, right? But I'm sure, let's just say Larry's HVAC, Larry's air conditioning, right?
Right.
That is an example of it's provider centric, not consumer centric. Unless you're only looking to do HVAC for people named Larry or something of that nature. So,
right.
Right. And so one way to look at it is what is a definition of a brand? So the definition of a brand is the message of value that you consistently communicate to your ideal clients. And I'll say that one more time because I know people often message us if we could repeat items. So especially the important ones. So the brand is the message of value that you consistently communicate to your ideal clients.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of components there, and we're going to break those down today, in this show, because a lot of, like we said, there's a lot of items in businesses that are misunderstood. And what our audience wants is, how do I take these, components in bite-sized pieces and actually get traction in my business? How do I actually make more profits, working less hours, and feel more in control of my business? Because again, business ownership is lonely. Who do you talk to for some real answers that you can make your vision reality? So we'll break those down as we go into them.
Absolutely. As those of you who are watching us live on whatever platform, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. Drop us a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. If you have a question or even a thought, a reflection on what we're sharing today, feel free to drop that in the comments as well. And if you're watching this on a replay, then drop a hashtag replay and let us know what you're thinking, what your questions are. We're happy to answer those as well. Richard, you mentioned the fact that the definition of a brand. A lot of times when I'm thinking about what a brand is not, people very often in their business, they're thinking, well, I need to rebrand my business, so I'm going to get a new logo, or we're going to come up with a new slogan or tagline, right? But you made the key point that a brand is not provider centric, or for all intents and purposes, from the business side, it's from the consumer side, it's consumer centric. What does that exactly mean? Because that can be something that's kind of mind bending for a lot of people to think about. When you dive into it, it makes sense, but it's not something that's really obvious to a lot of the conversation out there.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not the logo. People think of the logo. People put way too much emphasis on a logo, quote unquote. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know people are going to love this or hate this. That's okay. But it's not the logo. It's not necessarily like a slogan or a tagline.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being, if you look at a lot of companies, they change that over the years. They change their slogan, their tagline, logos, all of those items.
Right.
So, right. So again, we want to go back to looking at who our ideal client is.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, let's just use the example of HVAC company. I'll use this as an example. So let's say you're an HVAC company. Do you focus on, let's pick the big pockets first. Do you focus on residential, commercial, or industrial? Those are three different complete animals. And then if you even did a subset, let's say residential, do you focus on newer homes doing installations, or do you focus on much older homes doing repairs and retrofits? That could be an example. There is who is your ideal customer and targeting on those people. So that would be an example with that type of branding, and not focused on the logo. I like beating up logos sometimes because because I think it's really important for people. Like you said, it's not that necessarily. It may be a component of it, but that's not going to make or break a brand, especially when it comes to that consistent communication to your ideal clients.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people don't realize, especially when they first start a business, of course, but after you had a business going for a long time, sometimes you had a logo and you just want to refresh on that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding that. I think going back to the definition, right? The message that you consistently communicate, the message of value that you consistently communicate, has nothing to do with the logo until people have had the experience and have worked with the business. They've gotten something out of it. They've had something, they've gotten a certain level of value that has been consistently achieved over time, right? So if I go to Cheesecake Factory, and I've been there multiple times, whenever I see the Cheesecake Factory logo, now it communicates something to me of a certain level of value. So when I'm driving down the street, this is a perfect example, I think. When I used to drive my daughter in the car, she could recognize the McDonald's sign, right, driving down the street, even though we didn't go to McDonald's that often, but she knew what it was. And so for a child sitting in the back seat, McDonald's recognizes it represents French fries, it represents fun, it represents Happy Meal, it represents this whole experience. But it only means something to them after they've had the fries, after they've had the Happy Meal, after they've gotten that experience of joy and delight, of whatever the case may be. So if you're able to consistently deliver on that value, now the logo means something. But beforehand, it's meaningless. And so I think what we get to talk about today is, how do you create that value for your ideal client, so that now the logo, now the slogans and the taglines and the commercials and the jingles mean something, that are really a part of that whole experience. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Yeah, that's a fantastic example. That, like the McDonald's arches, you've got kids that are sort of your ideal client because they're going to persuade the parents quite a few times, right? Like, hey, I can go back and get a Happy Meal or French fries or some fun experience there. I know some of them, if they still do, had like a playground too and everything. So, right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the child rarely goes there, but there's still that impression that's been placed on them. So yeah, I think that's something to really look at, is what, if it's a logo you have, or is it your name? which we'll talk. We'll get into some details on naming, what to do and more of what not to do, a little bit later in the show here. Even picking that, what image is that going to resonate with your customers the next time they see it, or even the first time they see it? So
right.
Definitely very, very true.
So I know you got a list there of things that we can dive into.
Sure.
You want to start tapping into that, and we can talk a little bit more about rebranding the business.
Absolutely. So a couple items, when I've walked clients through rebranding, some things I've learned is it's not as difficult or complicated as people think it is. I'll give an example. So majority of people, and if you don't, you should have some type of entity, an LLC, a C corp, some type of entity to it. And so let's say if you call your entity, I'm trying to think of a very generic name. You call your entity Applesauce Enterprises. Just making this up, right? So yet you're a restaurant. So your restaurant name could be Extra Delicious Barbecue. And again, I'm just making some very, very generic names here. So you could have a DBA, which is a doing business as. You go to the Secretary of State for your where your corporation is. You get a DBA. A lot of times it's $7, $10. It's usually a very small amount, and then you can officially, do business as that name without changing it on your corporation. Now, could there be exceptions in different states or different industries? Yes. I always tell people we're not attorneys or CPAs or nothing of that nature. Yet, I've seen a lot of clients do this. So again, it's very simple to do. Then you go to your bank. I've got this DBA for my company. You can accept money with that name, with that business name at that point in time. So it's not expensive. It doesn't take a lot of time to transfer that name as you rebrand. I think that's a lot of times people think, oh, I got to redo my corporation and all these other items. Not all the time. Very rarely will you have to do that. And then I think that's one part to look at also. Then with that, you also want to look at, and we've talked before, and I think it's worth a revisit, what is the psychographic profile of your ideal client? So, and again, we're going to make this digestible. We want people to know these fundamentals as well as they can spell their own name. So the psychographic profile is their thoughts, their values, and the beliefs. Thoughts, values, and beliefs. So let's look at the restaurants, for example. So a restaurant, you're going to have a wide range of people in there. Well, actually, let me go back a little bit. There's psychographic and there's demographic. So demographic profile is just normal, your age, religion, marital status. I'm sure there's a dozen of them. All of these items that you can kind of put into a category, but that's totally separate from the psychographic profile. So right. So let's look at the restaurant for an example. Are there all ages that go to a restaurant? Of course, right? You've got from small little infants to people in their 80s or 90s. So you've got a wide age there. Are there different educational levels? Sure. People that didn't graduate high school all the way up to people with advanced, doctoral degrees. So, right, you've got all different marital statuses, just a wide variety of items. So looking for that demographic is going to be a challenge because it's so scattered around. This is why it's important to know what the psychographic profile of your ideal client is. So, for example, let's say you have a restaurant. Here's a pet peeve of mine. You go into a restaurant and the table should be spotless when you sit down. Spotless. That's just one of my little pet peeves, I say. I don't want, and again, people like, wow, you're something else. I don't want any smudges from anybody else. I don't want the right, wait staff to come over and have to clean it for me. Oh, hold on, we didn't clean this since the last time. Oh, what? Again, some people don't mind that. I do, right? I want the table spotless when I sit down, not after I sit down. Much
Right.
less we all, and again, I notice things not everybody notices. Some people wouldn't even notice there's smudges from the previous person. Well, I'm not sharing a meal with them, so but again, there's a certain psychographic profile that appreciates the cleanliness of the restaurant. So right, and then back to is it more family friendly type restaurant? Is there booster chairs there? Is there little coloring sheets for the kids to keep them occupied? Are there kid friendly meals? Just all of these things. Then that's geared toward more of the family friendly type environment. Right. So again, these are all things that you want to look at, and the way this, and again, this is making it customer or client centric, is you look at 3 clients that you have, that if you had a magic cloning machine, what are some commonalities of those people? And this is important in your brand, because you're very focused on those psychographic profiles of your ideal client. You're not focused on everybody, right? You're not focused on everybody. So right. So again, this is something to really look at. And you're not focused, let's say, for example, I'll use the barbecue restaurant. Let's say the owner likes extremely spicy food, right? So that may be okay for that owner, him or her. Yet if their ideal clients don't like spicy food, they like sweet barbecue sauce or maybe mildly spiced, then they've got to focus more on the sweet sauces or the original sauce, something of that nature. And that's going to attract more of their ideal clients. So again, I think that's very important in understanding your client so you can make their experience better. And this goes back to that message of value that you're going to consistently communicate. And I emphasize the word consistently, because and we're just using restaurants, this could be for any type of business, but you want those repeat customers. Right. And the example, you go in there and the table's not the cleanest, or they have to wipe it down after you sit down or something like that. That could be an example there. So what are some other items you think, Fredrick, that would be good to look at in developing that consistency with the brand?
I love what you're talking about. One of the things that I think people, they generally stop at the demographic profile. So they're thinking we serve, for instance, they may say we serve families, right? And they think that they are diving into the psychographic element of it because they think they understand that. But when you're talking about the values of it, right, there are more specifics to every story that flesh out those values. I like to give the example of, if you are a woman, like, let's say that your clientele is a woman, maybe you have a beauty brand, right? Or a magazine. Let's say that you have a magazine, something like that. And so if you're talking to women who are age 29, and tomorrow is their birthday and they turn 30, they are a completely different woman at 29 than they are one day later at age 30, because their values and perspectives shift, right? They start thinking about things completely differently. They're thinking now, if they want to have children, if they want to have a family, things of that nature, right? That is a very different dynamic. And so if you're just focused on a broad generality, you're missing the shift in their values right there that really helps you to be able to hone in and specifically own that category. You want to think, you talked about cloning, you want to be able to own that customer in a very practical consumer sense. You want to know that exactly how they think. You want to be able to provide the ultimate value for them, because the definition of an ideal client is the client that you can provide the most value for, which means that how are you going to provide the most value if you don't understand what they value, what's valuable to them, what's valuable to them in a particular category at a particular time, right? Once a couple has children, their values shift, right? Even though they may be in the same age demographic of a single or childless couple. And so now what they value is convenience. What they value is the child bathrooms. I can't tell you how many restaurants you go to that are supposed to be broadly, generally for everybody. But if you have a young toddler, you need to be able to change their diaper in the restroom. It needs to be clean. It needs to be conveniently located. The tray that you drop down can't be too tiny. I don't want my kid rolling off of this thing, right? So all of those things are things that go into it. And so the level of thought and detail you go into creates that environment where parents say, I want to take my kids to this restaurant. We'll go here because I know their bathrooms are clean all the time. They've got plenty of space. They've given thought to my experience as a customer, and they're going to make sure that I get what I need. They have high chairs, right? If you don't have any high chairs, I've just got a little booster seat and my kid falls off of that seat, I'm going to be upset. It's ruining the experience. All these other things that are taking away from that are things that you got to be able to dial into. So it's not just when it's consumer centric and you're talking about cloning those clients, you got to have a deep, deep understanding of what they're experiencing. A lot of times businesses they do everything they can to avoid the complaints, or they want to get rid of those customers that are complaining. But you and I talk about all the time, right? Chaos is something you need to celebrate. You need to embrace it. And so when people are complaining, that's an opportunity for you to be able to create more value through your brand for people. Obviously, if they're not your ideal client, and you take that with a grain of salt. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's an incredible opportunity that 99% of businesses are just letting money fly out the window because they think of it as complaints and not actually as an opportunity to be able to build on their brand.
That's an excellent example, like with the children and having the bathrooms that are designed for families, and getting that feedback from your ideal clients. Because if your children are older and maybe it's been a long time since you've changed diapers or something, we're just using this practical example, yet your target audience is families, well, they're going to have that situation go on. So but getting that feedback, and even sometimes asking them, not just how was your visit, but what could we do to improve? What could we do to improve 1% to make it better? Because if you just ask something generic like how was your visit, again, retail, we're talking retail, hospitality, any type of business, most people are going to be really nice. Oh, it was okay, or it was good. They're not sincere there, right? But if you say, right, hey, we would like to attract more, whatever it is, what more families, more business travelers, whatever that may be, how can we make it better for your next visit with us? And then, go ahead.
Can I drill on that for a second?
Sure.
When we talk about building your business, right? So there's a training aspect of that as well. How do you empower your employees and your team to be able to extract those elements, right? So the other day I went out with some friends of mine to dinner, and so went to lunch at a restaurant. And so the server serves us, she's doing fine. The manager comes over, and managers they're just doing a courtesy check, right? But it's not a deep dive, and they're not asking those level of questions. But every time a customer comes into your establishment, you have the opportunity to be able to extract that value and to be able to document that so you understand. It's okay. Sometimes people may not be thinking about it. It's cool. But if I'm sitting at a restaurant and there are multiple TVs around, and say it's NCAA tournament season, right? But where I'm sitting, I can't necessarily see the TV that I want to be able to see. That can be something that's there. Well, the restaurant we went to, there were TVs on every wall. So no matter where you sat, you could see. So that shows that there's a level of attention there, but maybe there's not there. So if the manager comes by, maybe they're missing an opportunity to optimize their business, optimize the customer experience. I mean, have you seen examples of that? Let me know what you think.
That's a fantastic example, because like the restaurant, if you're there and the ideal customer wants to watch, the basketball playoffs, and you've got on fishing tournament or whatever it may be, so, and I think I've seen this in retail, not only restaurants, but like in retail. Well, we could beat up retail for a little bit here. So retail, what type of music do you play in the background, right? Is it what the employees want to listen to, or is it your customers that come in there to spend money? These are these little nuances that are absolute game changers, because it's part of that experience that customer is, involved in. And like you said, is when the managers go around, or even how do we make the employees? So with the employees, I would make it back to the employees. You want to share with your team. We want to improve 1% every day. So a subset of that is not only what the employees do to improve, yet the employees could be asking the way they structure that sentence to their clients. Hey, how can we make your visit, improved next time? Even if just a little bit better, what would that be? And maybe you say, well, when some playoffs are on, put the playoffs on. Don't put the fishing. I'm not beating up fishing, but if there's a fishing tournament going on, maybe that's what people want to watch. But again, it's got to call out to that target audience type thing. And this is true for any and every type of business, whatever that may be. I'll give you an example. Like, I have a CPA firm as a client, and they do things the way they've always done them. They old school USPS in the mail out like tax returns, questionnaires, things of that nature. Why don't you ask your clients, what would you prefer? In 2024. And again, this happens with a lot of places. We do it the way we've always done it. Well, what's Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting this different result. Exactly. So you have to think about that. Like you were sharing earlier with a lady that's 29 years old. Maybe when she turns 30, her mindset change. There's a shift there, right? Or someone's had kids and they want to take maybe a daughter, mother-daughter day or something of that nature. They didn't do that 5 years ago, but now that audience has changed. So maybe you need to address that audience. If you're a retail environment, hey, we've got specials on Tuesdays for daughters and moms, type thing. Mom eats for free or something like that. So again, just being aware of it in real time and knowing that you can always up your game regardless of how good you're currently doing. I think that's the biggest thing. Having a pulse on that, and your employees asking people, looking for those improvements. That would be the biggest thing by far. So let's go in. I'm going to give some examples of what not to name your business and what to name your business. And again, these are just examples. There could be exceptions to it. So let's use a home services company. So again, this is everything in the gambit: electrician, garage door repair, HVAC. I always leave somebody out. Landscaping, just the whole, anybody that comes to your house, appliance repair, does anything of that nature. So part of this brand promise that we have to look at is, are you calling out to who you're looking for? So like, for example, if you say affordable. So affordable is a good word, but does it represent the best value? And when you say affordable, what are a percentage of those clients going to be? They're going to be wanting the best deal in town. Just the nature of the game, right? So be ready. If you call yourself affordable, whatever it may be, is knowing when you have a big price objection, 88% of the reason why is because the name you picked for your business. So, and again, this isn't going to be, not everybody's going to love when I say this. If they have affordable or anything close in their name, on their website, on the side of their trucks, on their business card, whatever. This could be for car, I've seen car sales. I'm trying to think who else calls themselves affordable. A lot of different, they have somewhere in their brand message, they have the word affordable. Take it out. Take it out unless you want to be constantly fighting price objections. If you're okay, right? Which again, we're going to do a show on pricing for profits, whole different topic. But I'm going to give you part of that, a piece of that pie as we speak here. When you're saying something like affordable, I think I seen one that said cheapest or lowest price or whatever. Of course, you're going to attract clientele that are looking for the best deal. Right. So, right, again, back to Einstein's definition of insanity, stop that. I mean, don't do those things. So here are some alternatives. One of them is use a word like bespoke. So bespoke is like customized. It's usually a lot of times used with fashion or high-end automotive. You could use it with anything. If you're lawn care, garage door repair, again, we're just using this examples. It could use it for anything. You could use the word bespoke in your name or in your description. Because what this is, right? What this is going to do, it's going to call out to a different audience that is looking for that premium product. Right. And here's some. So that's the secret sauce. And I'm going to give you a special ingredient. First thing when I talk to clients about this, they're like, "Well, our product isn't the best, or it isn't whatever." It's going to be the best to your ideal clients. Right. We've talked about it on this show, like your shoe size. Like Fredrick wears size 12. I wear size 11. Not everybody wears that size. Are there people that wear size 10, 8, 14? Of course there is. So when you use some descriptive, and I'm using the word bespoke, and we'll go over some other ones too. So when you use something descriptive like that, don't limit your thoughts in your mind to our business isn't that great. Your business is when you're calling out to your ideal client. Just like if Fredrick and I went in the shoe business and all we sold was size 11 and 12 shoe, we're going to lose people that have size 10 and size 14 and other sizes. Yet the size, let's just use size 11 and 12. How many different types of shoes could we sell, right? Tennis shoes, sandals, boots, dress shoes. I mean, we could just go down the whole list, right? We could have steel-toe boots. I mean, the list is a long, comprehensive list. We could sell socks to go with it, right? So again, pick a name. Either use it in your name, or definitely use it when you're creating your brand message, something that appeals to your target audience. I'll give you a specific example with us. So this is bosspodcast.com. Notice what it says, bosspodcast.com. It doesn't say Fredrick's podcast or Richard's podcast or Fredrick's and Richard's best looking guys on the internet podcast. We don't put our name on this but we're looking for is people that own companies. You're the boss of your company. So you see, right? You see what we've done there. Just like, it's sponsored by Gateway Business. Well, the gateway is like a door to opportunity. There is opportunity in business ownership. You can control your own destiny and not be controlled by working for somebody else, and knowing proven methods to achieve your business aspirations gives you that gateway, gives you that opening. But again, it's gatewaybusiness.com. It's not Richard's Business or Fredrick and Richard's Business, we don't start throwing our name in there type thing. So again, these are items that we're talking about avoiding common mistakes. And they're a lot of times common because the business owner is too close to the trees to see the forest, And that's what we're here for, is to shine that clarity on you so you can have those crystal. Everybody's had them in their life, right? Right, Frederick? So you get these items that, wow, I didn't see that before. I call,
Yeah.
I think the big word I heard years ago is called reticular activator. So think about
Yeah.
it, right? When you first bought your car, you didn't see a lot of them out there. But if you're like me, after you get your car, then you're like, hey, this thing's everywhere. There's another one. I'm parked next to one, right?
Mhm.
So that's what we want to do in business, is give you these, components of success so that they become so obvious that alarm goes off and everything of that nature. So Frederick, what would be some other words to avoid when your brand message or the name or the name of your business? What would be some items to avoid, do you think?
That's a good one. When you said bespoke, not as one, but as a one, I love that word bespoke, because it's a very particular. It's not just custom, right? Bespoke has a certain je ne sais quoi, as they say, right? It's got a very singular thing, but there are also some on the opposite end, right? You talk about affordable or convenience, like a convenience store, or what's another one? You talk about low price value, right? So Value Village is this name of a thrift store here in Atlanta, right? Well, but if you had Value Mart or things like that, you're thinking value. People are thinking, oh, it's going to be the cheapest. It's going to be inexpensive, Dollar store, obviously, right? So you have those Dollar General. These are stores that are built around the idea of it's a very low price, which means that it's hard for them to raise the prices. Like I saw an article the other day, Dollar General actually there's nothing in the store for $1 anymore. Everything is $1.25 or $1.50 or up, and so they're having a challenge now. It's really $1.25 store, but you don't have the capacity to be able to grow, and you're only going to demand certain level of clientele. So if you want to be able to grow and to rebrand yourself, you definitely got to be thinking about shifting that name. I would imagine that dollar store has to be thinking about rebranding here.
Yeah, you got to think more long term, because that's, especially if you're a medium or smaller size business, you don't want to be the lowest price. That's the key. There's always a market for people that will pay for the best.
Yeah.
And right, and that's part, like you said, is all those different dollar or everything that just pulls people in there. But when you pick a better, more descriptive name, best quality, again, it depends on the business. Like if you picked, I'm trying to think of a business, like if you like an accounting firm, what do you specialize in? Do you specialize in, a certain industry like construction, or do you specialize in forensic accounting, or do you specialize in, scenario modeling type, so again, pick that wording in there of where your greatest area of expertise is to your ideal clients. What does that call out to? If so I think that's the key there, is really diving down into it. Let's circle to brand architecture. So the brand architecture, and this is important, because let's use an example of some companies that everybody's heard of, and then we're going to give you the structure of how they have some names within their brand. And what we're doing this for is to get you to kind of think of your business outside of the box. Again, we're too close to the trees to see the big picture, but we're going to look at some very successful companies in how they do their brand structure. And hopefully this will spark an idea within you of what is capable for your own business. So let's look at Procter and Gamble. It's often abbreviated P&G. Procter and Gamble is we're going to share on the screen here, and I'm going to have Fredrick kind of read some of these names. I'm sure these are a lot of consumer names that people have heard of. So Fredrick, if you would kind of share with us, what are some of the brands Procter and Gamble have?
Yeah, they've got a ton of them, right? So they've got beauty products like Clairol, Olay, CoverGirl. They've got brands like Boss, Hugo Boss, Lacoste. They've got toothpaste, all different kind of toothpaste: Oral-B, Crest, Scope, Fixodent. They've got shampoo, Head and Shoulders, Pantene, Nice and Easy, Natural Instincts. They've got electricity, batteries, Duracell and Braun. Then there are Vicks, Pepto, and Metamucil, which are, I guess, digestive and medicinal products. Then they've got laundry detergent in two different different categories, actually: Dawn, Tide, Bounce, Cascade, Gain, Cheer, Downy, Ivory, Joy, Febreze, Mr. Clean, Swiffer, Bounty, Comet, Puffs. So they've got, if I do the math here, 3, 6, 9, 11, 13, 15, 18, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 2, 4, 6, 8, 40, 50. That's 53 different brands under one umbrella.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing. Yeah. So if you see what they've done there, and again, don't start 53 brands for your business tomorrow, everybody.
Please
What we want to do here is let's circle back to a restaurant, for example. And if you circle to a restaurant, and if they want to, let's say, expand into catering, that could be, it doesn't need to be, but it could be a different brand name. So let's use, for example, let's say it's, let's just call it Old South Barbecue. I'm just making this name. There may be a company with this name. I'm not sure, but let's say your restaurant is Old South Barbecue. Great name, right? And that's your, that's your retail restaurant. People come in, sit down, bring their families, and enjoy a delicious meal. Yet, if you wanted to do catering, and your primary focus was, let's say, wedding catering or business catering, you may have a different name for the catering company, and even a subset, one catering name for business and one catering name for the weddings. Right. So if you notice, like Procter and Gamble here, like, let's just pick the detergents here. You got Dawn, Tide, Cascade. Well, they're using similar packaging. They just changed the label of it. I mean, I've never been to the manufacturing plants, but a lot of it probably comes down the same conveyor belt, different little box, a different scent or something. So it's the same thing with that restaurant. But if you're going for very focused on weddings, you're going to get a larger percentage of weddings by saying, we specialize in weddings, and you have this name. Then you have something else that says we specialize in business meetings. Well, that could be a different name altogether, different menu, a different audience.
Yeah.
So again, take something. Again, we've worked with hundreds of clients on rebranding. Reach out to us. We'd be glad to, walk you through this so you don't make any big mistakes. Yet we're going to use the same strategies that these companies become billion-dollar companies by, with your medium or smaller business. And again, these are absolute game changers. Appreciate you sharing that with us, Fredrick. So again, these are absolute game changers when it comes to your business. You can command higher prices. You attract a whole different audience of clientele, and people do not confuse you with being average. I think that's the key. And again, I know we just kind of scratched the surface here on rebranding, but again, reach out to us, bosspodcast.com or gatewaybusiness.com. You can shoot us an email, you can text us, and we'll be glad to customize, some rebranding and walk you through that strategy so you can really take your business to the next level.
Yeah. We're coming up on time here. I just want to thank everybody who's been watching for a second, a minute, or longer. If you're watching this on replay, drop a hashtag replay. Let us know what your thoughts are, what you've discovered, what's resonated for you in this episode, and how we can how we can improve by 1% or greater in sharing value with you. What are the things that you would like to see or what you would like to know that can apply specifically to you and your business and your aspirations to be able to grow, to create more freedom, more time freedom, to create more wealth for yourself and for your family. Let us know what your goals are and how we can help you to achieve that. And you can do that more directly by going to bosspodcast.com or gatewaybusiness.com as well. Any other closing thoughts, Richard, before we get out of here for today?
Today is April 3rd, 2024. 25%. I know it's hard to believe. 25% of the year is already gone by. Ask yourself a question. If you're a business owner out there, have you achieved 25% of everything that you want to this year? If you haven't, don't do like Uncle Albert says, the definition of insanity. Reach out to us. Take some action. Change things up. Guarantee it. You work with us and you follow our proven frameworks, you will have better results. So you can do it. We're here for you. We're here to have those conversations with you so you can avoid those common mistakes and we can have the best year so far just by taking action.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. So let's just pretend I did. For Richard Pierce, I'm Frederick Douglass Bussey.